ION Geophysical is a data acquisition and data processing company. We are in the oil and gas segment based out of Houston, Texas. We are a global company. We have, we're in this down economy. We've had a couple of layoffs, but we have right around 1,300 employees globally. We implemented WingSpan 4 years ago, I believe, and this was prior to my joining the company, perhaps 3 years ago. And what happened was our CEO subscribed to the Levinson principles, and very, very much a follower of Levinson and Jerry Cranis, who is a psychologist or a psychiatrist actually, and has studied how organizations level themselves and how it relates to the success of an organization. And so what happened was, and of course this is all based on what I've been told, but SilkRoad came in and talked to, our VP of HR and the HRIS person at the time, and they said, this is the appraisal we need with the calculations that we need, what can you do for us? WingSpan came back the next day basically and had it built. So, and that's very much a summary of what happened. But so we are now, we recently implemented the goals module of WingSpan. We call them critical success factors, which are really performance objectives. And we did some training, and we got one comment about, aren't we over-engineering this process? And the fact of the matter is if you don't track performance objectives, then how do you know how your employees are growing and what they're contributing to a company? And on top of that, what really motivated this company to put performance objectives in WingSpan was that a year ago, one of our executives was let go or left or something, and our COO came and said, where are his employee CSFs? Well, they were stuck in some folder maybe, maybe it was a paper folder, maybe it was a folder in his email box. We had no idea where to go find these things. And of course, that was just the current ones. Who knows where the historical ones were? And so that's what really, was the motivator to get the performance objectives into WingSpan, was the ability to load them there, be able to track people's performance, be able to track what it is our managers are having their employees do and how those performance objectives align to our strategic objectives. I mean, WingSpan has been able to provide this company with line of sight. And, in this day and age, we need to, when we have fewer resources available to do the job that needs to be done, it's critical. We need to know what these people are tasked with doing. What are they supposed to accomplish for this company for the year, and is that in any way supportive of what strategically this company is trying to do in the same year? So it really, WingSpan has really allowed us to be a far more strategic company, ensuring that at the lowest employee level, we are meeting our strategic objectives.
Do the employees in the feedback loops that you've heard and whatever measurements you've taken, you and the management team, do employees feel more engaged by utilizing WingSpan, understanding their goals, what's expected of them? And
absolutely.
To the point even of their yearly reviews. Can you kind of talk about the whole mental shift in employee engagement tied to performance and productivity?
You bet. So before, when our CSFs were done on paper, they really weren't being critical success factors or performance objectives. Yes, that's our acronym for it, or our lingo. They weren't real, and if my God, if your manager changed mid-year, well, there was no, you could just pretend like they didn't exist, right? So there was no reality around that. So basically, if you don't have performance objectives, then really there's no engagement. You don't feel any true engagement because you're not held accountable to that engagement. And this all falls under the Levinson principles that I mentioned earlier. Is in order to be accountable, in order to be engaged, you have to be held accountable. You have to be held accountable to what you're supposed to be doing, and that then allows for the employee engagement. So, as minimal as this sounds, writing those down, those objectives down, putting them in a place where your manager and your manager's manager and the CEO of the company can access those things makes you engaged because then you're accountable for those things. And it also allows an employee to go back and say, hey, look what I've done. And we graded me, or we assessed my performance on these things, and that assessment is right here. And if that employee then has a manager change, that assessment is carried with him or her. So it absolutely it provides the engagement and the accountability that this company is looking for each of our employees to have. So it's when you don't have a system, excuse me, that captures these things and maintains the history around them and moves them from one manager to the next and up the chain of command, then if the employee decides to, it could just not be real. And you could have employees out there that are here to collect a paycheck, and that's all they're here to do because there's no accountability. And so absolutely, accountability equals engagement, and if the engagement is poor, then you handle it. You can handle it in WingSpan, and if the engagement is great, then you note it and you reward them from the same product.
And the employees feel like they are, if I may, do the employees feel, I'll ask it as a question, do the employees feel more at the time of review? Do they feel that there's an encapsulation of what they've done over that period so that it is accurate, fair, and they've got a right to have their voice heard and participate in their career?
Yes, absolutely. So one of them, and this comes down to feature functionality, right? But basically, WingSpan allows for the employee to grade themselves on each one of their goals. And so the employee has an ability to grade themselves on their goals, to make comments that support their grading, and it's held in there for eternity. So it can always be referenced back by that employee's manager, the new manager of the chain of command. And so it creates a environment of fairness because it's not, basically when it's held in a system, it's not an employee going into their manager's office and having this conversation and the employee defending themselves, and then anything can be told once the door is opened again. Now it's captured in a system. It's there forever and can be referenced forever. And that is the benefit of having a system capture. What I do want to say is WingSpan provides all of the tools that are necessary to capture performance objectives, administer them, promote them, make people feel engaged, grade them, all of that stuff, keep it in history for eternity. But it cannot replace the quality of a manager managing his or her employees.
Do the managers utilize the tool? Do they find the tool effective in helping them be better at their job?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, you could get a product out there, a performance management product that is very complex and has lots of different steps in it, but at the end of the day, they won't use that product. They're going to use something that is simple to do, that will give them all the information that they need, but not more than what they need to be able to manage the performance process in their organizations or in their groups. And so you have to be very careful, and I think a lot of customers could fall into the trap of, oh, look at all the bells and whistles on this performance management system. But if you're not careful, you're going to get more than what you need. And I think WingSpan absolutely has exactly what you need and more. I mean, but has the flexibility that allows a company to say, okay, I want the product to do this much or that much or that much. So that's what I love about WingSpan is you don't have to use all the bells and whistles there. You can use as much as you need. Our managers are new to this process. They're very, I would say, immature managers. They need to learn how to do it. WingSpan is just a tool to help them in that direction, and we don't want to overcomplicate this learning process for them. So I find that WingSpan has been incredibly helpful in not only engaging our employees but also teaching our managers how to manage.
Would you recommend the product?
I do all the time. Yes, absolutely.